Hey Ottawa, this is your Monday Market Snapshot for Monday, February 12th, 2024. My name is Annalie Rice, and every week I bring you the details of what's going on in the Ottawa real estate market. This week I'm going to share a little bit of an article that I found quite interesting. I'll just give you a little synopsis of that, so please don't jump away as soon as you see the stats. It's going to be after the charts. Okay, so first off, let's look citywide. What we see here is that we had a slight increase to the number of active listings across the city. It went up by about 30. Sales were also up just slightly by 11 this week. When we look at the inventory, we can see that the overall inventory, that's the black line, is actually climbing more quickly than what we're seeing the active inventory, that's the green. And that's because not only the sales are increasing week over week generally, but also the number of conditional sales is climbing. So we're seeing more properties to the market, but also more sales and conditional sales. The inventory is not climbing the same amount. Here we have the new listing breakdown. We had 313 properties that were listed for sale, and that's a fair jump from last week, and it's obviously getting into the spring market. I think all this warm weather that we've been having has been getting people out looking at houses. Only 58 properties, that was 19% of those 313, were relisted properties, so that's down a fair bit percentage-wise and actually numerically and from week to week. We had 255 new to the market listings this week. That was 81% of the properties that were listed. This represents a 25% jump in the number of new to the market listings from last week. So that's a pretty significant jump. Okay, so when we look at the number of sales, we had 15% of the sales that happened this week happened with no conditions. That's a bit of a drop from last week, but it's pretty normal for what we're seeing right now. And the 4-week average sits at 19 for that. We had, again, I've got the new chart in there on the right-hand side. I'm starting to track the percentage of the properties that are selling at or above asking. So this week we jumped up to 26.5%. So about a quarter of the properties that are selling at or above asking. 17% of the sales that happened this week were homes that had been on the market for 7 days or less. And of those properties, and that was 29 sales, which is actually a big jump. It was twice the number of sales selling within 7 days as it was last week. And 45% of those homes, so about half, sold with no conditions. 55% of the homes that sold this week were ones that have been on the market for 30 days or less. And so that number has been steadily climbing over the last while, which makes sense because of the number of properties that are new to the market after Christmas. Okay, so let's zooming in to see the different areas of the city. First, we have the central urban region. We see that the inventory is down across property types, and sales for detached were up but down for both condos and townhomes. In Canada and Stittsville, slight increase for properties listed for sale, except for townhomes, and the sales were up for towns and condos, but actually down for detached. Quite a slow week for sales in Canada and Stittsville this week for detached homes. In Barrhaven and Riverside South, we've got an increase in the inventory. So last week we had a really low condo. We only had 15 condos that were listed for sale, so it jumped back up to a normal level for Barrhaven and Riverside South. And sales were pretty slow, detached up slightly, condos down slightly, and townhomes steady. In Orleans, slight changes, slight number increase of condos listed for sale, just one increase for detached, slight drop for towns, and sales were up slightly for towns and condos and down one for detached. Okay, so here we have the chart form for this, and I did have a great question from somebody on my YouTube comments there last week. They asked what the CDOM was and why there were two columns. So I realized I haven't really explained these charts in a while. So what each of the rows represents one of the different areas of the city. So the first one being citywide, and then the 4 different areas of the city that I break down. And then the column, so the number of active properties, and then the average list price for those like for example, the citywide there, we've got 711 active properties for detached, and the average list price of 1.207. The CDOM is cumulative days on market. So how many days have all of those properties been on average listed for sale? And the CDOM is cumulative, meaning that if a property is listed and then taken off the market, but then relisted again within 45 days, then that cumulative days on market counter continues to climb. When you look on sites like realtor.ca, you'll see the days on market, which is from the newly listed time. So when I'm giving the details on how many properties are relisted, that resets the counter of days on market if you're just looking online. But if you have the cumulative days on market, it actually tells you that it was listed before. Then we've got the conditional, how many properties are conditionally sold, and the average price for those, average list price for those, and then the sold, how many sales happened in that last week and what the average sale price was. And then again, it's got the cumulative days on market there. So when you look at the cumulative days on market for the properties that are sold, generally that is less in a slow market, that's less than the cumulative days on market for the active listings. It means that there's some properties that just aren't selling, they're probably just priced too high, or they're just not selling for whatever reason. Okay, so that was a long one. So here are the townhome ones, and we see that the cumulative days on market for townhomes across the city is actually dropping down. It's almost down around the little over a month, but for the active is well over 60 in most of the market areas. And condos are a little bit slower with the cumulative days on market above 50, and then for the most part higher again for the active. Okay, so this is an article I wanted to share. It was something that a fellow realtor had shared on a Facebook group that we're all part of, and this was the 613, which they had taken, wrote an article about some data that was collected and presented by CBC, and it was talking about how sprawl-i-est different cities are, different major centers across the country, and their article is that saying Ottawa is the sprawl-i-est Canadian city. So this data, and this is a screenshot that they had in their article, but then I went to the source, which was the CBC, and it had explains that the yellow areas are, this is Ottawa and Gatineau, the yellow areas are where the city was built up, where the population was, where the city was built up in 2001, and then you've got the purple is all of the new population, new developments, new housing since 2001. So this was 2001 to 2021, I believe it was. So 20 years. And you can see, and you on the website, on the CBC site, you can actually like scroll it around and look at it from different angles. It's really quite cool. You can see that most of the developments in Ottawa and even Gatineau are on the outskirts of the city. So that's what it's saying about it being sprawly. So it's spreading out our city, and our densification is decreasing. So here is the change in population density. This is another one from the article from 613. It was saying that Ottawa's population density actually dropped by 19% over that 2001 to 2021 period of time. Some cities, such as Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, all increased their densification, population density, and Ottawa clearly was the lowest because we had a lot of new construction, but it was all expanding our neighborhoods in the outskirts of the city. This slide is actually from the CBC, and they have a whole lot more to that article. Like their typical CBC, they've got all kinds of interactive things, and you can look at transportation and all kinds of things. But if you look at this sort of shows you why. It was that the surface area that Ottawa expanded, so they expanded the surface area that is being built on within our Ottawa-Gatineau by 50% over those 20 years. So the footprint of housing expanded by 50%, which is actually quite significant. Now, we all know that the city of Ottawa is trying to make a plan for like 50% of new buildings in the next 20 years. This was in the official plan, and their plan for the future is that 50% of the new buildings are all going to be inside the city boundaries on lands that are already like considered in the built area. So hopefully this will reverse a little bit. We're not going to continue to expand out into countryside and farmlands and forested areas. Okay, and finally I have the monthly snapshot for the stats for the city of Ottawa. This is the Ottawa Real Estate Board details. And so this is just super quick, but basically it's the first time that we've got like green across the board. We've got, number of sales are up January, and the sale prices are up. And then the next chart is the year-to-date stats. So this is obviously the year-to-date is going to be up, but it's first time in a whole year where we're going to see green numbers. So compared to 2023, the number of sales was up 18%, 15% for condos, and the average sale prices are up just slightly from where we were from 2023. Okay, so that was the first time I've ever really shared an article or stuff, so hopefully that was a little bit interesting, something different to look at than just my numbers and stats. If you have any comments, please leave a note in the YouTube comments or get in touch. I'd happy to hear from you. Hope you have a fantastic week.